Welcome to Racket Rainbow. I'm kidding. It's Return to Tennis and I'm Aaron. But Racket Rainbow is not a bad channel name if somebody wants to run with it. Today, if you haven't guessed, we're looking at vintage Donnay rackets. Donnay's from what I consider to be like the golden era of Donnay, which is the late 80s, early 90s, when they had their big star, Andre Agassi. They had some other players using their frames as well. But back at that time, late 80s, early 90s, Donnay was up there. Their rackets were in all the retail stores, the big sporting goods stores. The local pro shops had them. Clubs were carrying them. They were hot. And it was all behind their superstar, Andre Agassi. He is basically what kept that company afloat in the 80s. And I personally really love those rackets from that era. A lot of people still do. Unfortunately, we don't have them available anymore, unless you find them on eBay. But we're going to get into it. We're going to hit a bunch of them. But let's talk about them a little bit first, how they were unique to that era. How were they different, right? And the first one we're going to start with, and we're going to look at, is the Donnay Pro 1. Pro 1 OS. This was the flagship bracket. This is what kept Donnay afloat. Now, the original model was blue and yellow with red accents. Agassi played this one a bit later. I think this one came out in 1991, right before the US Open. I think it kind of debuted. Agassi used this model. Now, I had the original blue and yellow previously. That was the racket I played most of my high school years. I played that one and this one in the last year of my juniors. I continued to play this one past that. Some USTA stuff. I played college intramurals. I played this racket. Made in Belgium, still back then. The orange and gray. I don't think there was much of a change to this racket between the blue and yellow original and the orange and gray. I just feel like it was a cosmetic update. I don't recall it really playing any differently for me. Extremely heavy racket for the time and for now. This is well over 350 grams. Just absolutely gorgeous. It was the neon orange, which is a little faded now. It's kind of just orange now. But it was the neon orange, right? Because neon was a big thing back then. Leather grip, right? Handle long enough for two hands. Flexible, around 62. Kind of evenly balanced, just a little headlight. This was my favorite racket of all time. It's one of my favorites. Let's give it a swing.
All right, guys, here we go. The Pro 1 OS. One of my all-time favorites. Just far too heavy for me now. My only issue with this racket that I have playing it now at this age, besides its weight, is I've always had a one-handed backhand. And I just feel like the head size is too big. I feel like I can't really drive the ball like I want to. It feels a little unstable at times on the backhand side, as well as volleying at the net. This racket was made at a time when Agassi was endorsing it, and it is truly kind of a baseliner's frame. It was a racket that was not meant for serve and volley. It was meant I really feel like it was felt as a baseliner's racket, which suited me. I wasn't a serve and volley kind of player because, I wanted to be like Agassi. Still feels incredibly comfortable. Still feels very much at home in my hand, despite having not hit it for years, outside of a few occasions when I would mess with it on some other videos. But just always feels right when I swing it again. Surprisingly, I actually got a lot more balls in with it off the forehand side than I anticipated. I thought I'd be shanking quite a few more than I did. Backhands weren't as bad as I anticipated either, to be honest. Very solid, comfortable. You can feel the flex in it. Doesn't have any of that modern dampening technology that a lot of people are used to, but that's okay. You know, it's still a great frame.
Like I said, great racket. This one, came in 91, and there were some differences that occurred at that time when you look at the grip, especially, because now we're going to talk about something that came out a little earlier, and it came out at the same time as the original Pro 1. It even had the same color scheme, and it was the Formula Pro, yellow and blue, red accents. Now, what was interesting with this racket, and several of these others that are all from that era, around that 89, the grip is even longer than the Pro 1, right? You give them a side-by-side comparison here. You can see how much of a difference there is in that grip length. These were meant to be accommodating for two-handed players. Something else that was unique is the end cap design of Donnay rackets in that time period, the 1989 era. They were bubble shaped. I really actually like these. It's almost like a pommel on the end of a sword. You know exactly where your hand is on that racket. This is the original Donnay leather, blue. You probably can't see it on camera. There, maybe a little bit. It says Donnay right here. It's in excellent condition for a racket this old. Whereas the Pro 1 was a box beam, the Formula Pro was not. It was, had some more of a roundness to it, thicker beam. Started with a thin throat and thickened up as it went, so it was tapered. My understanding is, from what I've read, this was very popular at the club level. Club players, club pros, they really loved this one. They wanted that look of the Agassi racket, that bright color, but they didn't want 107 square inches head size. This one's more like a 97, but it's heavy. This was 365 grams. It did have a head guard on it, right? It had a head guard that went all the way around the top like you would normally see, but it was so busted and broken in sections that I just removed what I could of it. I did not restring this because I'm afraid the grommets are going to fail. It's old. It also has, oh, no, it doesn't. No markings at all in terms of size, weight, anything. But now it's sitting about 360, but it was 365 before I took the broken headguard pieces off. But let's give it a go.
Coming in at just over 360 grams, the Formula Pro, about 97 square inches, has that nice long handle. Despite its weight, it actually was quite maneuverable. Comes through the ball really nicely, especially felt good on the backhands. Once I got it kind of figured out, I had to kind of adjust to it. I just, finished hitting the 107, so jumping down 10 square inches was a little bit of a change. But once I got a kind of a feel for it, it felt very comfortable, very nice, very clean when struck properly. But man, it's a little stiff. It's a much stiffer frame by comparison. The Pro 1 OS is the softest of the group. Everything else in the lineup is fairly stiff. Stiff enough that I can't play them. Not at these weights. These are just... But it strikes. It comes through so clean. It feels so nice when you hit the ball dead on. It's a real pleasure to hit. Took me a minute, like I said, to figure it out. And you really have to make sure you're coming through the ball. But it has a lot of weight, so prepping it was a bit of a problem. I would say this is probably my second favorite, maybe my third favorite racket of the group. I really do like this frame. Just wish Donnay made a lighter version of this. maybe something a little more flexible. But man, it's a fun racket. If you can find one, I'd grab it.
Great stick. Way too much for me. But you know, I'm not 19 anymore. Moving on. Now this one, as much as I love my old Pro 1 OS that I really just can't handle anymore, this one I can, and I've actually played a couple of matches with it. It is the Apollo Pro. Again, about 97 square inches. Bubble-ended butt cap, leather grip. That's the great thing back then, like in the late 80s, very early 90s. Almost all the rackets came with leather. Synthetic was not a thing. I've got a, what is it? It's a Pro Kenix composite graphite 90 square inch racket. It was off the shelf. It came pre-strung, placard, little just simple head cover, not a full bag. It was like a $25 racket back in 1988. It had leather grip. It came with leather. Today, mostly things come with synthetic, and leather's a bonus. Not then. Donnay had this nice blue leather. This is the original leather grip, and it is in almost perfect condition. I mean, I don't know if you can see that as well as I can, but even the imprinting on the leather is still there. Fantastic. I have played this. Now, what was unique about the Apollo Pro, what really made me a fan of this racket, it has cap grommets all the way around. Cap grommet system. This bump out here, I believe this is like Donnay's answer to Wilson's PWS. It's like a stabilizing feature that's part of the grommets. Has the extended length handle, has the bubble butt cap, but this one has an even more unique feature. This came with the variable balance system. This is removable. You can just put like your car key, something with an edge in there, and you can twist it and it pops out. And you can change the balance of the racket because it came with a set of weights. I've got the 10 grams in it right now. That's putting the racket itself at 342 strung. It's actually 340. If I take the cap out, it does weigh in at 330. The extra 2 grams is coming from the dampener. We have a 15 gram and we have a 20 gram. So you could change the weight, or you could change not just the weight, but the balance of the racket by simply swapping out that little screw at the bottom. Pops right out. Great little feature. Let's go give it a swing.
Okay, guys. Number 3 today, the Apollo Pro. This is the one with the variable balance system. You can adjust the weight. I've got it sitting at 340 right now. This is probably my favorite of the group. Like, I'm very nostalgic for the Pro 1 OS, and I love that frame. But now, with the kind of frames I prefer to hit now with the smaller head sizes, this one's my favorite. Oh, here we go. The machine decided to... Oh, we were doing so well. Here we go. The slinger bags decided to, just not feed anything in to the slots. But just a really great feeling frame. Just very consistent, very predictable, very stable as it comes through the ball. So I have actually played this frame in a match, did pretty well with it. So why aren't I continuing to play it? Well, the same problem I have with this that I have with a lot of frames that I actually play pretty well is that they are too stiff. It's too stiff. Donnay, just everything back then outside of the Pro 1 was a fairly stiff frame, and which was kind of the norm back then, honestly. There was a lot of stiffer rackets back then. A lot of the Pro staffs, the Yamahas, they were pretty stiff. But man, it does hit the ball well. The only thing I've really struggled with this one on is specifically second serves. I don't know why, but I've really had a problem getting second serves consistent with this racket. First serves are about the same as everything else, but just a really nice, clean feeling racket, incredibly solid to feel, but just far too stiff. I put in a solid hour of playing just this racket. I can feel it in my wrist and elbow for the next day or so, and it's not pleasant. But it actually stays in my bag though, because I just love how it hits. Finding one complete with its bag and its interchangeable weights is a little difficult now. Sometimes you can find the racket itself, but not the weight system with it anymore. So I kind of lucked out. But it is one of my. It's probably, like I said, it's my favorite of the group. Very solid feel. Just a fantastic stick.
Man, I love this. I just wish my arm could handle it. Like, any kind of extended play, my wrist and my elbow are done. It's just too stiff, but I love how it plays. I really do. But moving on to something else from that same era. Don't go anywhere, I'm going to need you. We have the hot pink Fuga Pro. Okay. Now this one is a little bit bigger. I think it's almost 100 square inch. Again, with the tapered beam, it's a little thin, gets thick at the top. Capped grommets, has that stabilizing system here on the sides like the Apollo Pro does. Just this one's a little chipped though, I can tell. This one's a little broken piece right here. Other than that, it's actually in near mint condition. Still has the original blue leather grip in excellent condition. Rounded bubble butt cap, which I love. Heavier. This one's at 352. It feels like it's a little thicker. Now, I had read somewhere online in my research of Donnay rackets that the Fuga Pro, the Apollo Pro, and the Formula Pro were all the same mold, just a change in the layup. Let's grab, let's see if we put them a little side by side here. I don't think they are, at least not in the throat. If you look at the throat on the Apollo, it is much thinner as you get closer to the handle than the Fuga is. The Fuga is a much thicker racket. The upper hoop seems to be very close, though. The upper hoop seems to be close. Just looks thicker around the end of the throat, the top of the handle pallet. Oh, that's another thing. So, for a while, Donnay, all these were made in Belgium, they would put numbers on them, like a serial code. But no one's really quite sure what the codes mean. Some people believe the first two digits of the code indicate the production year. This one is 89, 91, 90. This one is 88, 190. Now, no one's, they're still out. They've never been able to really get a straight answer from anybody what the codes meant. There was actually someone trying to compile at one point all the codes that they could get. But they believe the first two digits may indicate a production year, which is something I've really wanted to see manufacturers do, is put a production year on the racket so I know what year it was made, you know. But we're going to go out. We're going to see, how does it stack up? Is it the same head size? It looks like it is. I think it's also a 97. It might be a touch bigger. Could be a 98. It's close. It's close, guys. It's close. But we're going to get out. Let's see how it compares to the others.
Next up is the Fuga Pro, or the Fuga Pro. I'm not sure how they meant to pronounce that. I've heard this racket described as a women's frame. I guess it's because the color. They felt it was supposed to be meant for women because it had the hot pink and purple. I don't understand why the color would designate it as a women's frame, seeing as it's like 350 grams. It is one of the heavier ones of the bunch. Not as solid feeling as any of the others. It's from that same era, but for some reason it has that hollow feeling that I often talk about with a lot of modern rackets, that it feels hollow, like it lacks density. It feels like it lacks a solidity in the frame itself. I kind of hear a little bit of a vibration noise out of it, kind of almost tinny as it hits. Not a favorite, not something that I would play. I believe it's a 97 square inch head. It could be a little bigger, but just not anything like the Formula Pro or the Apollo Pro. Very, very different kind of feel. Not an enjoyable frame for me. It's not bad. It's just, compared to the others that I've hit in the group so far, it's not rating very highly. I was fortunate enough to find one of these in basically near mint condition, though, with grip intact in case, so I was happy about that. Very, very little cosmetic damage, but not something. It's going straight back into storage, to be honest.
That's a bit different. I still prefer the Apollo Pro. Not horrible. Like I said, a little hollow sounding, but I definitely still, I like the Apollo Pro better. It does. It's just nicer. But in any case, last one we're going to get out there with today. This is the WST Kevlar Pro 2. No serial number on this one. No indications of where it was manufactured either. So I can't say for sure this one was made in Belgium. It has that feel of that same era, that 88, 89, 90, just because of the color scheme. The gray with the hot green, neon green. Leather grip, extended, no bubbled end cap. This showed up, and it had a bubble end cap, and the grip was ruined. It was not like the others where that the leather had been preserved the entire time. It was really bad. So I had to strip it. I did wrap it in new leather. I gave it a new leather grip from Tennis Warehouse. But when I took it off, the bubble-ended butt cap just crumbled into pieces. It was completely dried out. It just broke apart and crumbled onto the floor. So I had to put on a generic kind of butt cap to fit it. This one is also quite heavy compared to the others. It is at 356 grams. It has a head guard. It does not have the cap grommets on it. No cap grommets, just the head guard. Overall, frame condition's nice. It's actually in pretty good condition. We have never hit this, right? I'm going to take it out. This is going to be the first time swinging it today. Being Kevlar, I expect it to be rather stiff, but with the exception of the Pro 1, all of these have been pretty stiff. But let's go out, let's give it a run and see how it goes.
Final one today, guys. This is the Kevlar Pro 2. This is the first time I've ever hit this racket. It has the strings that came in it. Overall, the frame's in pretty good shape. The grip, as I said earlier, had to be completely replaced, and the bubble-shaped butt cap, end cap that I'm such a fan of, crumbled into pieces. So the frame is in fairly good condition, though. Just the grip was ruined. It's more similar to the Fuga Pro than the others. It has that kind of hollowness in it, how it feels, that kind of tinny sound. I would not be surprised if this one and the Fuga were a similar mold, or were the same mold, just with different layups. Being Kevlar, it is fairly stiff. The Fuga was also a fairly stiff frame. As a matter of fact, anybody out there who has any spec information on these rackets, I would appreciate it. I've been able to find some spec information on the Formula Pro and, of course, the Pro 1. The others, though, has been a lost cause. No one's been able to help me out. But, yeah, this one, the Kevlar Pro and the Fuga Pro I'm glad I have them in my collection. but they are not things that are going to come out again. They're probably going to stay on the shelf in storage. Just not good feeling rackets. But when compared to the Formula Pro and the Apollo and the Pro 1, they just don't feel as good. They're not even in the same category.
That's it, guys. That's my run of the vintage Donnays of what I consider their best era, late 80s, early 90s. Agassi was king. But what I really would like to say is that I miss these frames. Do any of you out there still play these frames? Let me know in the comments. If not, which frame do you think you'd like to try if you could? A lot of these you can find on eBay rather affordably, but conditions vary. Which would lead me to my next thing is if by some chance, some weird circumstance that Donnay or the people at Donnay Rackets, because they still make rackets. I've got their Pro 1 OS, their 2023 build. I've got their Pro 1 97, both very nice rackets, very comfortable, very easy playing, easier on the arm. If the folks at Donnay stumble across this, please bring these back. Bring these rackets back. Bring back, especially like these three. Bring these back. The Formula Pro, let's bring it back. Bring back the bubble butt caps. Bring back the extended length handle with the leather grip. Bring these things back. People miss these. The Apollo Pro, right, with the variable balance system. Bring this back. Bring the Fuga Pro back. Give them a shot. But I beseech you to bring them back. But bring them back at weights that are more manageable now for the current market. We don't need 360 gram rackets. Bring them back in weights that are manageable. Those 310s, those 305s. Pull the stiffness down. These things are horrible on people's arms now. But I'd like to see these come back. I'd like to see these molds reused back in the market. The layups adjusted for the weight and the stiffness to make them more player friendly. I think they would do well. I'd even like to see the same paint jobs, but a little more modern twist. So please, if you're out there, if you're with Donnay Rackets, give people what they want, right? Give us what we want. Your rackets are great. They're fine. They're good. I like them. There's actually a lot of people at the high level, like Pro or 5.5 level, that love the Pro 1 97. I've seen video of it, and I do too. I really miss these. These are where it's at, man. These three especially. You don't need to bring back the box beam Pro 1 OS. You don't need to bring back the Kevlar Pro. But these three, they deserve a resurgence. They deserve a reintroduction to the world so that the current generation can be introduced into the great rackets that you guys used to make. That's all I got for today. I appreciate it that you guys, if you made it to the end of this video, thank you. It was a bit of a long one today. Until next time, it's nice where you are. I know winter's coming. But if it's nice where you are, get off the couch and get on the courts. We'll see you next time.